So, today I have been super in my emotions. And I want to do a check in with everybody. But I also want to talk. There's no intro, there's no glitz, glam, if my channel even ever had that. But with everything that is going on in our world, between inflation cost, between, Miranda rights not having to be said now, to Roe versus Wade being overturned, my mind has been rampant. I've been trying to keep myself busy so I don't think about it, which I'm sure some of you have been doing the same. And to be honest, I wasn't even going to make this video. I thought about it, but then I'm like, I'm just another asshole adding my opinion to a list of other people. But literally all day, I have been crying my eyes out. Because the first time in a while, I have nothing to keep me busy. And in my whole life, I've had moments where my empathic abilities, psychic, whatever the fuck you want to call it, has triggered me to have other emotions. I'm used to having emotions of other people occasionally and filtering it out. I can go into big crowds and be okay, a little bit nervous, but decent nonetheless. But the overwhelming feeling that I'm experiencing today, I don't know what to do besides get on here and talk. And like I said, I wasn't going to make this video. And then randomly, I kept on hearing tinging here in my spirit room. I've got a bay window over here. And I'm like, what is that? So the more I looked, there's like 12 grasshoppers hitting my window. Just randomly. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. So I looked it up, and apparently grasshoppers, in a spiritual meaning sense from what I read, means a leap of faith. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now, is a leap of faith. The things I'm seeing, the stories I'm reading, it's heartbreaking. And I wrote a couple articles since the fact that it came out, and it's like, no matter how much I write, no matter how many videos I share, my mind is just everywhere with it. My emotions are everywhere. And I know if I'm feeling this, other people got to be feeling it as well. Whether it's because they're empathic, or it's because they're scared, or it's because they're uncertain of what the future may hold. And right now, I'm experiencing all those emotions. In my life, I've went through a lot of diversity. Not as much as others, but enough to create trauma that I'm still working through, And even as a kid, I never understood why in our society, throughout history, we took the rights away from people and treated them less than they had needed to be. And even growing up, I've always had that thought of, fight the power, stand up for those who need to be stood up for, and be an ally, as now they call it, instead of just calling it being a friend. Because you can be a friend without knowing somebody, at least in my mind. But it's so weird watching the energy shifts where women are going against other women, where instead of standing together as one, we're just arguing with each other. Like, when does it end? And I've contemplated this of, we separate each other so easily. And we've done it ever since our existence. Probably even before recorded time. We each have value. We each have a purpose. And right now, anybody who can bear a child, no matter your age, and no matter the circumstance in which it is given, it's becoming to a point to where there is no safety. And I was watching this video today of this lady that was angry, and she was POC, and she was like, it's white women that did this. And I thought about it, because in some instances it's not just white women, it's society, you know what I mean? But like, I understood what they were talking about. You raise these certain people, you raise their kids and generations. Then it made me start thinking about the generations I grew up with, where women were told to be quiet, to be silent, to be seen and not heard unless spoken to. And in my Pentecostal background, never cut your hair, wear long dresses, all this other shit that I could go into for hours, but I'm not. And it's like, from the time that we enter this planet till the time that we exit it, it is just constant bullshit. Continuously. Nobody enters this world with hate. No one enters this world with, hey, you're not human. Let me treat you different. We may notice things about each other that are different. And when you're young, you say these things, and, you realize that, sometimes it can be offensive because you're still learning, you're still naive. Then you grow up and you go to school and different cliques form and you learn different parts of the history that make you ashamed. Not because of just the history, but shame to be a race. And not in a race of like white versus black or whatever. I mean a human race. To where rights that are given when you're born into a world, such as freedom, clean water, food, love, compassion, these are things that are given. Or should be, you know what I mean, when it comes to life. But yet it isn't. And it continues to go this way. And we'll use religious ideology and thought to dictate other people's bodies. I mean, even if we look past the Roe versus Wade, there was a lot of laws in a lot of different states where you couldn't have certain procedures even before, this happened. Unless your husband signed off on it. Or what about your future husband? Or your future whatever, right? And it's amazing that we're so shocked. Because realistically, we've never had the right to our own bodies. We had the illusion that we did. And it's a scary thought to think. We sit here, and you've seen it, presidents have talked about it, holidays have been erected, and, and statues torn down of, different things. And we try to abolish hate. But yet, we still go after our own people. I was reading an article today that I don't know what the act was. Maybe someone down below can put it, but it was the act where back in the day they used to take Native American children and put them in certain schools to make them white, so to speak. And there was an act put in place to stop that. And I hear that they're going to try to overturn it. Or they're attempting to. Like, you guys realize this is a snowball effect. Whatever we're dealing with as a country, and the things that divide us, y'all need to wake up. If you ain't saying nothing about it, whether you believe in whatever it is, eventually, if we go with what was the statement for the overturn of Roe versus Wade, that this wasn't what the country was founded on, what's next? I hear that there's some that are talking about getting rid of gay marriage. Okay? How much longer before we get into that state of mind where interracial couples aren't going to be able together? How much longer do we get into that mindset to where you can take your wife and beat her ass on the court steps? Like, for so much progression that we've had over many years, and it's not perfect, we are literally backpedaling. And I've been sitting here racking my brain. What more can we do? We've got protests, we've got silent protests, we've got blackouts, but let's be honest with the blackouts. People are going to buy shit because they feel for their needs. Half of them may not even use social media, or they just don't give a fuck. Let's be honest. It's not working. You can't have protests where no women works for a whole day because people got to feed their family. I live in Ohio. They're literally trying to figure out a way to make it into law where if you have an ectopic pregnancy, to put it into the uterus, even though that's not possible. There's literally states that are banning contraceptives. See, it started out with life starts at a heartbeat. And now you're wanting to say it happens before even conception happens. Because that's basically what you're saying. You're preventing it, right? If we don't do something as a country, if we don't do something as pagans, and put away our anxieties and put away our worries and actually use the fucking words that we say, that we want to protect our people and protect the land and protect the energies within this world, and we sit on our asses and not do a goddamn thing, it's going to get bad. Do you know that there is rarely any pagan politicians? Why is that? Now, we could say it's because of the voting. Maybe so. But if you had enough pagans in your area, which here in Ohio we do, why aren't we trying to get people in to points of office and watch them move up? So things like this religious bullshit doesn't happen. See, we were founded on separation between church and state. Unfortunately, we're saying fuck that. I get that we try to make laws and regulations based on our beliefs and what we think is right. But when you take away the rights of other people, like this country is known to do, you're not progressing. You're not somewhere where the world can look up to. Instead, you're part of the issue. I'm not an extremist by any means, but I am a realist. And the realization of what's going to be happening is more women are going to die than they are going to give birth. And you know, they're saying it's because white women have stopped having so many kids. And that's possibly true. I mean, back in the day, nobody had nothing to do except for read, make stuff, sow on the land, or bang. And, you know, over the years, as women, we realize that we don't have to sit there and be, you know, pregnant and barefoot, so to speak. So I don't know what makes it right or what makes it wrong, because realistically, no matter what we do, there's always going to be a reason for it. But one thing that we shouldn't do as a community is play the blame game and separate more. Like, you do realize dividing and conquering are a fucking thing. You can still have anger issues towards somebody, towards a certain race, whatever. That's on you and your personal journey. But as the saying goes, the enemy of our enemy is a friend, an ally. So if we go on this basis that we need to come together because we got a common threat, which we do, it doesn't mean that we have to riot, but it does mean that we need to be heard. And over the years, I've heard so many times during different periods of devastation, I'm afraid to get out. I'm afraid to do this. I'm afraid to move forward. Well, you know what? Sometimes you got to suck it up and take that fear and fight for what's right. Fight for justice. Fight for equality. Like, how many, you know, it's going to get to a point to where if we're going to start doing this, then who's to say that they won't bring back witch burnings again? I mean, realistically, let's get into it. If we think this way, and we're already, well, some of us that I've heard throughout the community, abroad and locally, willing to die for your right, what are you going to do when they start coming after you? Because your religious belief does not follow theirs. Because it will happen. If we continue down this road, it will be a reality, not just some possibility. And that is a terrifying thought. And that's where my progress of my mind has led me down. In between my fits of rage and emotional overload, to where I don't know what the answer is. But I know the solutions that we're coming up with are not what's going to help us. So I'm making this video basically to share my thoughts, my opinions, because I know I'm not the only one that has feelings this way, even if you don't agree with the whole video and you just agree on the energy vibrations that you're getting, and to the point to where it's too overwhelming. It's a start and a place for conversation. And when we have our Embracing the Divine Feminine event, we're going to have these discussions within our community, because we can't stand back and be idle anymore, or eventually we're going to be the next ones who get targeted. We've already got people that are being targeted in our community as pagans. We deal with it every day. I deal with it. But I still try to be open to other paths, different religions, and try to be open enough to see other different viewpoints. But there's a difference in having, a conflict of opinion and forcing conflict onto another. So start having those discussions. Start giving yourself the courage to step out, to be heard, in whatever way it can be. Because this is not the end, for it is only the beginning. And we're going to have to work together, no matter our differences and no matter what we fear. So until next time, guys. Bye.